In this video, we're going to be talking about converting a shapefile into a raster file using ArcGIS Pro. In previous videos, I've created this lovely reclassified digital elevation model where 0 is representing unsuitable elevations for my model and 1 is representing suitable locations for my model. And in this modeling that I'm doing, I've got some bedrock geology information as well, but that is stored as a shapefile. Here it is. Well, that's nice and all, but if I'm doing raster-based modeling, or if I have a raster-based workflow, or even if I'm working in arrays, rasters and arrays have a lot of similarities. I might need this instead of a lovely shapefile as a raster file instead. So we have to convert it. This is still a very common thing in our workflows. So let's get converting and see how we can turn this into a raster file that I can then use. There are a lot of conversion tools inside of Arc Pro, just like there were in the old Arc. So many that I'm actually going to pull up the toolbox window. I always search for my tools. I don't have to remember stuff. I don't have to remember where things have moved or where they've gone, but I think it's really cool to see all the conversion tools which are in the conversion toolbox. Look at all these things you can do. You can make your data dance in any way that you want to and from shapefiles, to and from rasters, GPS, JSON, KML, CAD, Excel, so many others. In this case, I want to go to raster, and what do I have? I have a feature class. Feature class is a general description of shape files. You may have noticed in there that there were polygon point line to rasters as well. So feature class is kind of going to cover them all for us. Remember to hover over the question mark. If you want to know more about the tool, click on that question mark. If you want the full help page, you can always hover over the eyes for each line of the tool as well, if you want to know more about that section. So we're going to take our feature class, our shapefile, turn it into a raster. Well, I only have one, so that's easy. Now, a shapefile attribute table can contain many things. So if I look at my shapefile here, I've got area, I've got perimeter, I've got some bedrock info, and I've got some material information. That's all pretty interesting and pretty useful. When I'm converting into shapefile, or converting a shapefile into a raster, I can only bring one of these with me. A raster is cells arranged in the grid, and each of those cells has one value per band. I'm only working with one band things here. So one value, I've got to pick what I'm working on here. And I'm actually going to take material. Material is where I know my data is going to be stored, or the data of interest that is stored there. So I'm just picking material because that's where I know my information is. You might convert a shapefile to raster based on some other file, depending on what you know about that data. Come on back. There we go. Now, before I hit run on this, I, of course, want to make sure that I'm going into the right place. I love my default geodatabase, so I'm going to put it there. Remember, I'm choosing to put this in my default geodatabase because that is where I, being in control of my data, want it to go. You might not want it in the default geodatabase. You put your data in the place that is right for you. I'm just going to call this bedrock grass. That works for me. I'm kind of staring at my cell size here. A mystery that I still, let's see if our eye helps. No, that's not really helpful at all. It remains a mystery to me why the default, that's a default value there, why the default for the cell size of a raster is the extent, the shortest, let's see, what's the official wording? The shortest of the width or height of the extent of the input feature data set divided by 250. I have no idea why that's the default. I doubt that's appropriate for me or anyone else. So I'm going to change this. In fact, I would love because of the modeling that I'm doing, because of the work that I'm doing, I would love for my raster that I'm converting here to match the same cell size and the same alignment as the raster I already have. That makes sense, right? Put all your rasters in a row. Fortunately, I don't have to, okay, I'm gonna dive in here and find the raster information. Okay, 67.37522, how many twos? I don't have to do that. I'm gonna make Arc do the work for me. We should do this as often as we can. I'm actually gonna work in this environments tab here. It's kind of like peeking under the hood. If you're into working on cars or computers or mechanical things, or looking at code or really digging into how something works, the environments tab is for you in ArcGIS Pro. This gives me all of the environment options relevant to this tool, and then lets me set my processing to the custom way that I want it. Now, so I said I want this as the same extent, and it's the same cell size, and then the same alignment. So we're going to do that. Extent, what does extent mean? Only process features or rasters that fall within the specified extent. Great. I want it to be the same as my DM250K. That's what I've been basing everything off of. So I'm going to do it. When I click that, it then pulls the extent indicators from the raster. So as specified below is directly from the raster. Then I want my cell size to be the same as 250K. I want my snap raster to be the same as 250K. That's looking pretty good. I'm happy with all of that. You'll note I haven't touched any coordinate system. I'm really fortunate in that all of my files here, my raster and my shapefile, are already all the same coordinate system. If they weren't, I'd be very careful about how I wanted to do that reprojection. I'd probably do it in a second step, just because I don't want all of those things happening at the same time. I'd want to be careful to plan that workflow out. Maybe project first, then convert, or convert first, then project, just so I don't introduce any additional error. We would want to think through that workflow. We don't have to think about it now. So I'm super happy with environment set. We can now run, let's see what this output new raster is going to look like. For whatever reason, it has put it below the shapefile. Let's get rid of that. Oh, that's pretty. That's very pretty. The only thing that maybe is not super useful about this default is that it has grouped all of these things together. And I am not a geologist, so I do not know if 1 through 7 should be grouped or 8 through whatever should be grouped together. So I'm actually going to change this symbology to unique values. Whoops, not vector fields, though that's kind of cool. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So now I have unique values for my converted bedrock raster. I can move my old shapefile down. I don't need it anymore. Now I'm in business. I have a converted bedrock raster. I can work with that later on. And we will continue working with that in another video. But in this video, we took a shapefile, excuse me. We took a shapefile, we converted it to raster, and we made some environmental decisions along the way so that that converted raster had the same extent and the same grid alignment as the raster I'd already been working with.